Creepy Airbnb stories. Story 1. My husband got us an Airbnb for our anniversary a couple years ago in the mountains near a national park. It was one of these where we just rented the room in a larger occupied house. Night 1. We arrived before the host did and had a hard time finding the property. We actually drove past it several times and dismissed it due to the large gate blocking the driveway and multiple keep out signs. Once we drive down the driveway, we realize we are there before her and use the hidden key to go inside. There's no real furniture inside. Some old particle board stuff and couch in the living room, but it is sparsely furnished. There is nothing but a bag of apples in the fridge. About that time, the host shows up. She describes her long commute to a city multiple hours away every day and describes how her boyfriend worries about her. She's sure to mention a few people in the area have bothered her before, and she is armed because of it. And also, we must always lock the driveway gate behind us. Overall, we get a distinct feeling she is lying or hiding something. We assume it is that she actually doesn't live at the Airbnb full-time, but doesn't want anyone to know, so she exaggerates to throw folks off. It would explain the weird furniture too. Night 2. Husband and I return to the Airbnb after dark. As our headlights light up the driveway, a man is just standing in the middle of the gate. We jump out of our skins, but he gives us a friendly wave. We realize this must be the boyfriend. Oh, he does exist. We go into the house and the host tells us that they are going to a concert for the night. The boyfriend has a very intense stare and literally says nothing, all while our host is gushing about her exciting night. He's just silent. Our host is sure to emphasize that she saw us in our car in town earlier in the day as well. Okay, so these folks are a bit odd, no doubt. Husband and I are exhausted, so we go to our room. I immediately notice our stuff has been gone through and put back carefully. There were no coasters in the room before, but now room temperature water bottles are on coasters. The clothes I had out and folded feel wrong, like they've been moved and put back. At this point, I am angrier than creeped out. We make a joke about how it was a bit like a bad horror movie and go to sleep. We are then woken up by the couple, not only when they come home late, but a none too lengthy time after they went to their bedroom. Gee, I wonder what was happening. It is important to now note, and remember for later, that the house has two sides, one that we never saw, and one with two bedrooms, the host and ours. We had to pass by her bedroom to leave the house. Day 3. Before leaving for the park, I arrange our stuff specifically to see what will happen. I also take anything with value with us. Night 3. The host texts us during the day that she'll be staying with her intensely silent boyfriend for the night. Perfect. No more snooping through our stuff, no weird noises to be expected. We come back and go to bed early after a long night of hiking. Once again, it is clear our stuff has been looked through. A solid feeling of discomfort and just wanting to be done with the Airbnb settles in. Guys, gals, and every other identity, things are about to get real. We are woken up in the wee hours of the morning by something that sounds like it was sliding on the roof. I notice a weird light reflected by the windowsill, like car headlights heading down the driveway, and then all the power in the Airbnb goes out. At this point, my instincts are telling me to GTFO. I cry out, "What was that?" Husband grumbles that it is fine and goes back to sleep. I sleep none the rest of the night. There are no more noises, not even the sound of our host coming in late. Moreover, what are we gonna do? Look through a house we don't know in the dark when we have to pass by her room? I settle in for a night of tense vigilance. Day 4. I tell my husband that I am not staying here anymore. Husband says I am overreacting. I pack all of our suitcases and try to persuade him that something is wrong. He is adamant a branch slid across the roof and knocked out the power. So we went outside. There are no trees near the house. There are no trees down. The power lines are all still intact. I am freaking out at this point, which is unusual for my husband because I am the more scientific and logical one. Husband convinces me to leave our things at the Airbnb and go hike to mull it over. As we leave the house, the freaking gate across the driveway is unlocked and open. Open! Oh, and all the surrounding neighbors have power. At this point, I say something about the headlights, and my husband says he didn't notice the lights. At this point, I am theorizing that our host really is harassed by locals, and they climbed to the roof and disconnected the power. The power line connected just above our bedroom. My husband calls the host to report the power issue. She mentions that her grandfather has actually passed away the night before, and her brother will be on the property preparing the family graveyard shared on the property. We say something about leaving, and the host repeatedly insists that we stay another night, and says she'll be home in the evening too. I tell my husband that I have no idea what is going on. Whether corporeal harassment or otherworldly visitors, I don't believe in. But it is time to listen to our instincts. Are we really going to sleep having our one exit trapped by this woman and her boyfriend? We've been lied to, our stuff has been moved, and shit is happening. Night 4. We come home that night, my husband packs our car while I offer my condolences, and we finally GTFO. I've never slept better than that night. Holy cow, that story is absolutely terrifying. I'm sorry, but I would have noped out of there first night, let alone before they touched my stuff. The way the host acted is incredibly suspicious too. The fact that she emphasized the need to lock the driveway gate behind them and the boyfriend's intense stare and silence definitely adds to the creepy factor. If anyone looked at me like that, I think I would just cancel my trip and go immediately home. And what was up with the sparse furniture and bag of apples in the fridge? It all seems so strange. Sounds like an episode of The Twilight Zone. Story 2. Airbnb in the 18th arrondissement of Paris. The place was a 4-story apartment that I rented just for a weekend with a few friends. The larger apartment building was maze-like, with no windows in the common spaces, and had those elevators that look like they are lined with concrete, which was a bit off-putting to start. Despite being 4 stories, the apartment was extremely small and narrow throughout. I stayed on the top floor, which was converted, attic with 2 beds and some basic accommodations. It never felt right being up there. It was dark, had no windows, and was just a bit claustrophobic. But I didn't think I'd mind because we weren't going to be spending a lot of time there. First night, I ended up sleeping at a French girl's place, which was its own half-regret of a story. But the second and final night, I went back to the apartment late with only one other friend from my small group, and he took the only bed in the only small room off the bottom floor. That bottom floor had a thick door with the hotel lock, and was the only way in or out of the apartment that we knew of. I couldn't get comfortable and couldn't fall asleep in that attic. It just didn't feel right. To make things worse, we didn't want to use the hotel lock on the front door, because we had some friends that may or may not come back in the middle of the night. We did lock the light deadbolt, though. I was tossing and turning all night, spending lots of time staring at the ceiling. I stayed completely still and silent around 4 a.m. when I heard footsteps walking up the final staircase and the only exit, which led directly to the door of the attic room. The door whispered open, making a disturbingly quiet crescendo, doing high-pitched squeals. I don't think I would have heard it if I hadn't already been awake. It was dark, really dark, and I could barely make out the door slowly peeling open, as if someone was trying to sneak in. I stayed laying on my side and kept my eyes locked on the doorway, as it continued to open until I called out, thinking it was my friend, perhaps trying to mess with me. No response. But the door stopped inching open for a second. I called out again and again, got no response. By now, the door swung wide open, slamming against the wall, and I saw a shadow outline of a person, distorted by darkness and barely illuminated, only from the doorway behind, which had a window looking out onto the streets of Paris on the wall across from the top steps. The figure started approaching me slowly. It was so dark in there that I couldn't make out exactly what or who was coming silently towards me, but I didn't wait to find out. Went full fight or flight mode and sprang up and out of bed, grabbing a nearby heavy lamp to use as a blunt weapon. My eyes must have been better adjusted to the dark than my evening guest, and I was able to keep my distance. I occasionally swung the lamp while moving in a skewed clockwise circle around the figure in the narrow, claustrophobic attic as it approached me. After what felt like a few minutes, but was probably a few seconds, I found myself with a clear path to the doorway and the subsequent staircase, so I threw the lamp at the intruder, breaking it with a shatter, and I flew down all 3 flights of stairs with so much energy. I was lucky not to fall and hurt myself. I shook awake my one friend who made it back with me that night and said that crazy shit was going down upstairs. I looked back and the door to the apartment was wide open. I told him that I was effing leaving right now and calling the cops and that he should join me. He did join me without a second thought. Both of us were in pajamas and neither of us even grabbed our phones. We were trying to get out of there so quickly. As we were fleeing the building, we ran into 2 of our other friends who got the Airbnb with us as they were exiting the strange concrete elevators. Being so drunk that their words were mostly slurred into an incoherent ramble, they basically said that we were just freaking out and that we should go back to the apartment with them. They also didn't want to call the cops because they were insisting on finishing all the drugs they bought because nobody wanted to take them on the plane to our next destination. My soberish friend and I said we weren't going back and left the building. A few minutes later, my drunk friends texted us that the place was all clear, but we were assholes for leaving the door open and trashing the place. We did leave the door open, but we did not trash the place. I did totally break a lamp, though. I spent the rest of the night at a 24/7 McDonald's alone when my friend who was downstairs decided that he wanted to go back to get some rest before the flight. I didn't go back to the Airbnb the next morning until after sunrise. I got my stuff as quickly as I could and got the F out of there. To this day, nobody believes me, but I am 100% confident that somebody broke into our Airbnb that night. I never ended up calling the police, but I told the Airbnb owner the story, and he thought I was just trying to get out of paying the damages on the lamp. I gave the place a 1-star review with simply the comment, "Decent location, decent amenities," but I'm pretty sure someone broke in during the middle of the night and tried to kill me in the attic. None of my friends nor the owner believed me. I got charged extra for breaking a lamp in self-defense. This is not a joke. 1 out of 5 stars, I won't be coming back. The fact the writer's friends didn't believe them is so frustrating too. I mean, I get that they were drunk and probably not thinking straight, but come on. When someone says they were almost killed in the middle of the night, you'll listen to them and take them seriously. It's not something to brush off or make fun of. And to add insult to injury, the Airbnb owner didn't believe the writer either and charged them for breaking a lamp in self-defense. That's ridiculous. It's not like you were trying to be destructive or anything. They were just trying to protect themselves. Better a broken lamp than a dead body. At least you knew where to get fries and a Frosty when it was all done. If you ask me, OP should have made their friends pay for their McDonald's. Story 3. I stayed at a lovely Airbnb in Iowa for my little brother's graduation. He didn't know I was going to make it, so we threw a surprise party at the Airbnb. While we were setting up, my older brother and I went down to the basement to get an extra table. The second we got down there, we looked at each other and said, "Yup, it's scary here." We searched for the table. The longer I spent in the basement, the greater the feeling of dread grew in me. We found the extra table and headed back upstairs, joking about how creepy a seemingly normal basement was. My whole family got together, and the family started. While we were celebrating, my girlfriend decided she'd run the washer downstairs. She was gonna go down alone when she came back and asked me to go with her since it was creepy. Again, I went down and rushed to leave. The basement was now officially scary to me. As I was going down, the buzzer on the washer went off again, scaring us. We both jumped. I hurried down, grabbed the laundry, and we headed upstairs to let it air dry. As we finished, I could tell she was still nervous, so we decided to go through the house and lock all the windows and doors. This is standard when we visit an Airbnb. We never miss this step. My girlfriend stays beside me this whole time. We finally have one last door, the door to the back garden right outside the kitchen and at the top of the basement. I go and lock the door, ignoring the sense of dread I felt with my back turned to the basement. I should mention, this was an oldish house. So the stairs were steep, and the bedroom where we slept was probably originally an attic. In order to turn on the lights upstairs, you had to flip a switch at the bottom of the stairs. As we made our way in the dimly lit house to the light switch, I think our sense of tiredness overcame the dread we had. I flipped on the switch and headed for the stairs. Just as I did, I heard a loud banging sound, like the sound of pots or something metallic clanging. It was a fast tone. Whack, whack, whack. My girlfriend's face was full of fear, and I'm sure mine was too. I began to go to the kitchen where there was a knife, but then I heard the whacking again at the top of the stairs. I turned to look against the now illuminated attic and saw a ceiling fan turned onto its max setting, and its mounting pole making the sound. I ran upstairs and turned off the fan, my girlfriend close behind me. We got ready for bed. I headed downstairs to turn off the light switch and went upstairs. I looked outside the window of the attic to check on my car out front. Everything was good. We began to fall asleep. It was a restless night, hot and stuffy. I had dreams of seeing a shadowy figure out on the lawn. I woke up the next morning tired. I made my way down to the kitchen to brew some coffee. As I was turning around, I looked at the staircase to the basement. Something was wrong, and I don't know why, but I was drawn to the basement again. I looked down the stairs and walked down. I looked around and saw nothing. I headed up the stairs. We had breakfast, packed our bags, and got ready to go. As we were doing one last sweep, I checked the kitchen one more time and made sure everything was in good shape. Just as I was about to say, all good, let's go, that damned laundry machine buzzed. Both me and my girlfriend were just like, nope, and proceeded to get the F out. As we were leaving in a rush, I grabbed the bags and told my girlfriend to start the car. As I was, the fan upstairs turned on again and began making the whacking noise. I've never bolted so fast out of a house. When I got to the car, my girlfriend saw the look of panic on my face. What happened? The fan turned on again. I got her out of the driver's seat and we sped off to collect our thoughts at a local diner. I texted the Airbnb's host that the washer kept on making noises and I couldn't figure out how to turn off the ceiling fan upstairs. They messaged back, "Thank you for staying with us." Okay, reading this story gave me chills down my spine. It's the kind of story that makes you feel uneasy. And even though you know it's just a story, you can't shake off the feeling that something is not right, like I'm being watched. I can only imagine how the person who experienced this felt. I can only hope that you and your girlfriend were able to shake off the fear they felt and enjoy the rest of their day. And hopefully the diner had some pretty good pancakes. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.